You open a cereal box and the bag inside is less than half full. You tilt the box, shake it gently. Look down into the opening at the 1.5 inch of cereal sitting at the bottom of a 12-inch container. And you say the same thing every person who has ever opened a cereal box has said. It must have settled during shipping. That explanation is so universal, so automatic, so completely unquestioned, that cereal companies have relied on it for 70 years without ever having to say it themselves. You supplied the excuse for them, the entire country supplied it collectively, and nobody asked the follow-up question that the excuse was designed to prevent. If it settled during shipping, why does every box of every brand of every cereal in every grocery store in America have the same amount of empty space, regardless of how far it traveled or how long it sat on a truck? A box shipped from a factory in Battle Creek, Michigan to a store in Los Angeles has the same air gap as a box shipped to a store 6 miles from the factory. Settling during shipping is a variable. The empty space in American cereal boxes is not a variable. It is a constant, and constants are not accidents. The air in your cereal box was put there, and it was put there for reasons that begin not with cereal at all, but with a doctor at a sanitarium in 1894 who was trying to cure constipation. John Harvey Kellogg was the medical superintendent of the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan, and he believed with the intensity of a man who had staked his professional reputation on a single idea: that the American diet was slowly destroying the American bowel. Kellogg was a Seventh-day Adventist. No meat, no alcohol, no caffeine. A diet of grains and vegetables, and what he called biologic living. His patients at the sanitarium were wealthy Americans who came to Battle Creek to be cured of the ailments that Kellogg believed were caused entirely by what they put in their mouths. In 1894, Kellogg and his brother Will were running leftover wheat dough through rollers, trying to develop a digestible grain product for patients whose teeth were too poor for hard bread. The dough dried overnight. The next morning, instead of a sheet, it had formed individual flakes. They toasted them. The patients ate them. The response was immediate and enthusiastic enough that Will Kellogg understood something his brother did not. This was not a medical product. It was a food product, and food products could be sold to people who were not patients. Will Kellogg added sugar. John Harvey Kellogg objected on health grounds. The brothers split, and Will founded the Battle Creek Toasted Cornflake Company in 1906, with a product that tasted better than medicine and could be mailed in a box to anyone in the country. C.W. Post was a former patient at the sanitarium who had watched Kellogg develop his grain products and left Battle Creek to start his own cereal company. By 1900, Battle Creek had over 40 cereal companies operating within its city limits. A single American city had become the manufacturing center of an entirely new food category, and they were all shipping product in rectangular cardboard boxes because boxes stack, boxes travel, and boxes carry the name of the company on every visible surface. The box was a billboard before it was a container. This distinction matters more than any other single fact about why the box is the size it is. The American supermarket arrived in the 1930s, and by the 1950s, it had created something that no previous retail environment had ever produced at scale. Shelf space as a scarce resource with a measurable dollar value attached to specific positions within that resource. A supermarket carries between 30 and 50,000 individual products. A shopper walking through it at normal pace with a cart and a list has approximately 3 seconds of visual exposure to any given section of shelf before their attention moves forward. In those 3 seconds, the products at eye level receive the most attention. Products above eye level receive less. Products below eye level receive significantly less. Products on the bottom shelf are reached for by people who already know they want them, and by almost nobody else. Manufacturers understood this and competed for eye-level positioning the way companies compete for billboard space on a highway. Slotting fees. Payments made by manufacturers to grocery chains for guaranteed shelf placement. The fees for eye-level positioning in the cereal aisle of a major American grocery chain in the current market run to tens of thousands of dollars per store per year. A manufacturer with nationwide distribution paying those fees across thousands of stores is committing hundreds of millions of dollars annually just to control where on the shelf their product sits. A taller box occupies more vertical shelf space. More vertical shelf space at a premium position means more visual surface area visible to a shopper moving down the aisle. More visual surface area means more of what the box carries on its face. The brand name, the mascot. The color scheme that the company has spent decades training consumers to recognize at distance. The cereal box is not tall because it needs to be tall to contain the cereal. The cereal box is tall because height is the variable that controls how much advertising surface the manufacturer gets in exchange for the shelf fee they are already paying. The cereal inside is incidental to the height calculation. The box is the point. Now add to that the nitrogen. Before a cereal bag is sealed in the manufacturing facility, the air inside is replaced with nitrogen gas. Nitrogen is inert. It does not react with the oils in cereal the way oxygen does. Oxygen causes rancidity. Nitrogen prevents it. The nitrogen flush is a genuine preservation technology keeping the cereal fresh from factory to table. But nitrogen also inflates. A bag sealed with nitrogen under slight positive pressure holds its shape. It resists compression. It maintains volume even when the contents inside settle and consolidate because the gas fills the space the cereal leaves behind when it settles. The bag stays full-looking. The box stays full-feeling when you lift it. You shake a cereal box, and it feels like there is more inside than there is because the bag is pressurized and the gas moves with the solidity of a cushion rather than the emptiness of air. Your hand reads the resistance of pressurized nitrogen as the resistance of cereal volume, and your brain translates that into an estimate of quantity that runs consistently high. This is not an accidental byproduct. The relationship between nitrogen fill volume and consumer weight perception was studied and documented by food packaging researchers whose findings were available to every major cereal manufacturer by the 1980s. The nitrogen serves two functions, and both of them were known, and both of them were kept. The FDA has a rule about empty space in food packaging. It is called the slack fill regulation, and it was designed specifically to prevent manufacturers from using package size to deceive consumers about how much product they were buying. Non-functional slack fill, defined as empty space in a package that serves no purpose, is explicitly prohibited under federal food labeling law. The key word is non-functional. Functional slack fill is permitted. And the list of what qualifies as functional includes the protection of the contents during shipping and handling, the requirements of the machinery used to enclose the contents, and the settling of contents during shipping and handling. Cereal companies have defended the empty space in their boxes in federal court using exactly these exceptions. The settling exception in particular has been litigated multiple times in class action suits brought by consumers arguing that the gap between cereal level and box top constituted deceptive packaging. The courts have consistently ruled for the manufacturers, not because the settling argument is scientifically precise, but because the legal standard for deception requires showing that a reasonable consumer was misled. And courts have found that the presence of net weight information on the box provides a reasonable consumer with the information they need to determine actual quantity, regardless of how the box looks. The net weight is on the box, in small print, on the side panel, in ounces. Everything else the box says is marketing, and marketing is not subject to the same accuracy requirements as the label. The net weight is on the box, in small print, on the side panel, in ounces. The front of the box is 12 inches tall with a cartoon character at eye level and a bowl of cereal photographed to appear fuller than any bowl of cereal. The law says the small print on the side panel is sufficient. Everything else the box says is marketing, and marketing is not subject to the same accuracy requirements as the label. In 2014, researchers at Cornell University published a study that measured something specific about cereal box design that no manufacturer had ever publicly acknowledged was a design decision. The characters on the front of children's cereal boxes were looking down, not straight ahead, not up, down, at an angle calculated to make eye contact with a child standing in a grocery store aisle at the height a child stands. Tony the Tiger, the Trix Rabbit, Cap'n Crunch. Every character on every major children's cereal was positioned and drawn with a gaze directed at an angle that would intersect with a child's eye level. The Cornell study found that cereals whose characters made direct eye contact with children generated significantly higher feelings of trust and connection in child test subjects. The characters were not decorative. They were engineered for a specific psychological transaction with a specific height of consumer at a specific shelf position that the manufacturer had paid to occupy. The box knew where the child was standing. The character's eyes had been aimed at that exact position before the box ever left the factory. Turn a cereal box sideways in your hands and look at what you actually have. 4 large flat surfaces covered in color and typography and imagery. A rectangular billboard that travels from factory to truck to warehouse to shelf to your kitchen counter and sits there for 2 weeks facing outward at whoever is in the room. The cereal is the reason the box exists. But the box is not optimized for the cereal. It is optimized for the journey, for the shelf, for the eye of the person walking past it, for the 3 seconds of visual exposure that decide whether a hand reaches out or keeps moving. The height of that box was not calculated by asking how tall does this container need to be to hold this amount of cereal. It was calculated by asking how tall does this surface need to be to justify the shelf fee and outcompete the boxes beside it for the eye that has 3 seconds to decide. The cereal settled during shipping because cereal always settles during shipping. But the empty space above it was there before the truck left the factory. It was part of the design. From the first morning, someone in Battle Creek put flakes in a box and realized the box was the thing people would see first, longest, and most clearly. The cereal was always inside the billboard. Nobody told you the billboard came first.